Hey everyone, Nigel and Luke here, and welcome to the second part of our two-part series about crimes involving reality TV shows. If you haven't seen part 1, be sure to check that out first. We'll leave a link in the description below. As always, don't forget to like and subscribe to Crime Zone for more true crime content like this. It really helps us to continue building the channel. With that out of the way, here is part 2 of 2 crimes involving reality TV shows. In the summer of 2011, 33-year-old Michelle Parker and her ex-fiancé Dale Smith Jr. took part in a taping for the popular American legal reality TV show, The People's Court. Their story was like countless others that had been featured on the show before. Though their tumultuous relationship had come to an end 2 years prior, there were lingering hostilities between them, and now Dale was suing Michelle for the cost of a $5,000 engagement ring that he had previously given her. When the former couple appeared before Judge Marilyn Millian, Dale explained that the ring had been lost during a heated argument in a hotel room, when Michelle took it off and threw it at him, sending it flying over a balcony. For her part, Michelle claimed that Dale had been abusive throughout their relationship, saying, quote, "He gets pretty malicious and vindictive, and he's a mean person, especially when he's been drinking." Among other things, she mentioned that she had previously been embroiled in a custody battle with Dale over their 3-year-old twins. The segment ended in Dale's favor, with Michelle ordered to pay half of the cost of the ring. As per the show's usual format, the decision was accompanied by some stern words from Judge Millian, who criticized Michelle and Dale's volatile relationship and urged them to grow up and move on for the sake of their children. As episodes of The People's Court go, it seemed entirely unremarkable, and likely would have quickly faded into the obscurity of the show's massive archive, if not for one thing. A few months after it was taped, on the very day that the episode aired for the first time, Michelle Parker vanished into thin air. Before we get further into the events of Michelle's disappearance, it's worth taking a little time to talk about her life, as well as her relationship with her former fiancé Dale Smith Jr. Michelle met Dale while working as a bartender at a nightclub in central Orlando in 2006. She was quickly swept off her feet by Dale's confident and gentlemanly demeanor, and the two began dating a short time later. The couple eventually moved in together with Michelle's son from a previous relationship, got engaged, and in 2008 welcomed 2 new children into the world when Michelle gave birth to twins. Though from the outside it appeared that the young family was happy, privately, the relationship between Michelle and Dale was deteriorating. Michelle said that this was due largely to Dale's abusive behavior towards her, which she alleged was both verbal and physical. The claim was later backed by Michelle's oldest son, who was 11 at the time of her disappearance, and said that he had witnessed Dale going on violent tirades against Michelle in front of him and his 2 young siblings. However, it's worth noting that at least a few of the couple's friends seemed to think that the volatility in the relationship was two-sided, and that throughout their relationship, Michelle's family thought of Dale as a loving and caring father, despite their ongoing problems. Still, by the middle of 2009, the relationship between Michelle and Dale was effectively over. Just after the twins' first birthday, Michelle took them and her older son, left the house where they had been living with Dale, and moved back in with her mother, Yvonne Stewart, in the community of Geneva, northeast of Orlando, in Florida's Seminole County. Following the move, a bitter custody battle over Michelle and Dale's twins ensued, culminating in one particularly ugly incident in August of that year. During a fight, Dale allegedly smashed the passenger window of Michelle's vehicle and threw a pair of the children's car seats, all the while holding one of his young toddlers. In court, Michelle would later say that Dale finished his tirade by screaming, "Your day is coming." Following the incident, she filed a request for a domestic violence injunction against Dale. However, this was dismissed in September. It's not clear why. Though none of the articles we read outright said this, based on our research, it appears that the bitter custody battle ended with Michelle receiving primary custody of the twins, while Dale was given visitation rights. For the next 2 years, All of the children spent the vast majority of their time living with Michelle at her mother's house in Geneva. According to friends and family, during that time, Michelle worked hard to support them, working 2 jobs as well as attending cosmetology school. During the day, she attended classes, and on nights and weekends, she bartended at a nightclub called The Barn in the city of Sanford. In between taking care of her 3 children, what little time Michelle had remaining went towards building her business called Glow Mobile Airbrush Tanning. As the name suggests, it was a mobile airbrush tanning business that Michelle ran out of her Hummer H3, which was decorated with custom decals that advertised the business. Upon graduation from school, Michelle planned to join her mother and sister at their hair salon and continue to build her business. Sadly, she would never get that chance. Aside from the fact that her and Dale's episode of The People's Court would be airing that afternoon, November 17, 2011, was an otherwise normal day for Michelle. After an uneventful morning, she stopped by at her mother and sister's hair salon, before leaving to drop off the twins at Dale's house in the Carter Glen townhomes, just off Goldenrod Road in Orlando. At approximately 3:15 p.m., video surveillance on a property near the location of Dale's home captured Michelle driving in the neighborhood, where she dropped off the twins. Not only was this mere minutes after her People's Court episode had premiered, it would also be the last time Michelle would ever be seen alive. At around 4:30 that afternoon, Michelle's brother, Dustin Erickson, sent her a text message inquiring about where she was. She replied with a single word: Waterford. Though Dustin took this to mean that Michelle could be near the shopping complex in the Waterford Lakes area, he nonetheless found the response strange. Michelle was known as someone who always texted back long messages, often peppered with smiley faces and other emojis. It was an unusually short response, one that only grew more concerning when Michelle failed to show up for her evening bartending shift in Sanford. Michelle was reported missing by family members that night, and a search began almost immediately afterwards. It didn't take long to uncover the first disturbing piece of evidence in the investigation. Just a day after Michelle disappeared, her abandoned Hummer was found in the parking lot of the Walden Palms Apartments, just a short distance from the mall at Millennia. Chillingly, the decals for Michelle's business had been removed. Around the same time, detectives traced the last approximate known location of Michelle's cell phone. The phone had last pinged around 8 p.m. on the 17th in the area of Oak Ridge Road near Belle Isle, roughly 7 miles from where Michelle had last been seen at Dale's house. After that, the phone appeared to have been powered off. Because the area of the last cell phone ping was close to the Jesse Black Saloon where Michelle had formerly worked, this is where her friends and family organized their search efforts, setting up a base of operations in a donated camper. By November 19th, more than 100 people had joined the search for Michelle, and thousands of flyers were handed out. Sadly, no additional information was uncovered, and the days began to roll by with an increasing sense of mystery and desperation. Though there were seemingly no answers to be had about Michelle's disappearance, her family remained sure of one thing: she had not gone missing of her own free will. In statements to the media, they said that she would never leave behind her children, saying that they believed she was carjacked and being held captive by an unknown perpetrator. Despite Michelle's tumultuous history with Dale, initially the family believed that he could not be involved in her disappearance. As previously mentioned, they noted that he always seemed to be a loving and caring father, and furthermore said that they didn't believe that he would ever seriously harm the mother of his children. According to several family members, Dale seemed as upset and worried as anyone in the immediate aftermath of Michelle's disappearance. At 11 p.m. on the night Michelle went missing, he also quickly took to Facebook and wrote a frantic-sounding post imploring people for answers. In the post, Dale said that the police had already searched his house and that his children needed their mother. However, it wouldn't take long for both Michelle's family and the broader public to see a different side of Dale. It began on November 28th, when police released their next major update in the case, identifying Dale as the primary and only suspect in Michelle's disappearance. Aside from the obvious information, such as that Dale and Michelle had a volatile relationship, and that he was the last person to see her alive. Detectives said that Dale was refusing to take a lie detector test, which they viewed as not being cooperative with the investigation. Around the same time, additional details began to emerge about Dale's checkered past. It turned out that he had a long criminal history dating back to 1990, and that there were other allegations of domestic abuse against him from past romantic partners. In 1990, Dale pleaded no contest to a trespassing charge, which had been downgraded from burglary. 2 years later, he entered a pretrial diversion program for drug possession, and also pleaded no contest to attempted aggravated battery for taking part in a fight during which a 22-year-old man was killed. In 1996, he joined the Marine Corps, where he would serve for 7 years before being dishonorably discharged in 2003. His military career ended following a 2001 court-martial on drug and domestic battery charges, for which he was sentenced to 36 months in prison. During his time in the military, Dale was married twice. The first marriage ended in divorce in 2000, and the second ended with Dale being widowed, when his wife suffered a brain injury from consuming ecstasy while Dale was in prison. Though we know little information about either of Dale's marriages before his relationship with Michelle, it seems that both were mired in similar allegations of abuse, and it's safe to assume that the domestic battery crime that Dale was convicted of was perpetrated against one of his former wives. A day after Dale was named the prime suspect in Michelle's disappearance, the Department of Children and Families removed the twins from his custody. They had been staying with Dale and his parents since Michelle went missing, but following the revelations about his violent past, the agency said they had reason to believe that they were in imminent danger. This was reversed a day later, when a judge ruled that the decision had been premature and released the twins back into Dale's custody. The ruling would create a rift between Dale and Michelle's family, particularly Michelle's mother Yvonne, who claimed that Dale was keeping her grandchildren away from her and not allowing visitation. The family also said they now believed that Dale was hiding information from investigators and that he knew more about Michelle's disappearance than he was saying. On the same day that the twins were briefly removed from Dale's home, his lawyer held a press conference. During the event, the lawyer announced that Dale categorically denied involvement in Michelle's disappearance, going as far as to say that it was physically impossible for him to have carried out a presumed kidnapping or murder. As evidence, Dale's lawyer stated that soon after Michelle had dropped off their twins, Dale had driven them to his parents' place on Rose Boulevard in Oak Ridge, arriving at around 4:30 p.m. The journey would have taken 20 minutes of the roughly 75-minute window between the time when Michelle was last seen alive and when Dale allegedly arrived at his parents' property, and his lawyer argued that this was nowhere near enough time to commit a murder and dispose of Michelle's body and vehicle. However, the lawyer never mentioned whether anyone had been able to independently verify Dale's time of arrival in Oak Ridge, or whether he had stayed at his parents' house after dropping the children off. Police would reveal one major additional piece of evidence in early December that seemed to amplify suspicions even further. Michelle's iPhone 4 had successfully been found. Though the phone was primarily of interest to investigators because of the potential treasure trove of information that it contained, there was another detail that stood out: the location where it had been found. It was discovered submerged in water near the Neela Bridge, which straddles the two halves of Lake Conway in Belle Isle. Aside from being relatively close to the area where it had last pinged a cell tower, it was also roughly halfway between Dale's condo and his parents' house. Michelle's phone was in surprisingly good condition, and investigators were supposedly able to obtain information such as text messages from it. But beyond that, none of its contents were ever shared with the public. It's safe to assume that whatever was on the phone, it wasn't enough to crack the case. The phone's discovery came as a particularly hard blow to Michelle's family, who were understandably finding it increasingly difficult to stay optimistic about the chances of finding her alive. Speaking about the phone's discovery, Yvonne told the media, "It's become a lot more real to me that someone has done something terrible to my child." However, despite their suspicions, investigators had no concrete evidence tying Dale or anyone else to Michelle's disappearance. Though Michelle's family and friends continued to expand and relocate their search efforts, all of them proved unsuccessful, as did police searches of any properties connected to Dale or his parents. At the beginning of 2012, on what would have been Michelle's 34th birthday, detectives with the Orlando Police Department released a video surveillance clip of Michelle in order to keep the case fresh in the minds of the public, as well as in the hopes that it would generate new leads. The short clip was taken at approximately 12:22 p.m. on the day Michelle disappeared, at a KFC drive-thru in Castleberry, west of Oviedo. The clip is mostly uneventful, but shows that Michelle was alone in her vehicle at the time. Unfortunately, this release also failed to generate significant new information. As far as we know, the last major piece of evidence to ever be released in Michelle's case came on the second anniversary of her disappearance in November of 2013, when another short video clip was released. This video clip showed Michelle's Hummer sitting at a red light at the corner of Conroy and Vineland Roads at approximately 8:55 p.m. on the night of her disappearance. Importantly, this intersection is less than a mile away from where the vehicle was later found abandoned, and based on what we were able to find, 8:55 was already well past the time at which Michelle should have been at work. At the time police released the video, they said that they were unable to determine who was behind the wheel of the vehicle at the time the recording was taken. For the first time, investigators also announced that they believed it was possible that the perpetrator behind Michelle's disappearance hadn't acted alone, with Detective Mike Mareschi saying this was a two-person situation. In the years since this final piece of evidence was released, most of what has been reported about the Michelle Parker case consists of yearly anniversary reminders that the investigation is still open, or infrequent updates about ongoing legal battles between Michelle's family and Dale Smith. The first of these legal battles relates to a wrongful death lawsuit that was first filed by Yvonne on behalf of Michelle's estate against Dale in 2013. The suit alleged that Dale was negligent or otherwise committed a wrongful act that caused Michelle to die. According to Yvonne and the rest of the family, the suit is primarily about getting answers from Dale, who they feel is still hiding information about Michelle's disappearance. The suit has nearly been thrown out at least 2 times since 2013, but as far as we can tell, is still ongoing. The latest information we could find about it was from some news articles in 2018 that said that a judge had ruled that the suit could proceed, but it remains unclear if there have been any further developments. The second legal battle, again primarily spearheaded by Yvonne, has to do with visitation rights with Michelle and Dale's twins. After Dale was granted full custody of the twins, Yvonne began to campaign for a special bill largely based on her circumstances, which would allow grandparents to ask courts for the right to visit their grandchildren if one parent is missing, in a vegetative state, or has died. A version of this bill was later passed, and Yvonne applied for visitation rights, but based on the information we read, sadly, she was never able to reconnect with the children. According to articles we were able to find, Dale and the twins moved to Tennessee in the years following Michelle's disappearance, and her family has since been denied any contact with them. Michelle's eldest son, who is now either 20 or 21, has also apparently not been allowed contact with his younger siblings. Though Dale remains the primary suspect in the investigation to this day, it's important to remember that he has never been arrested or charged in connection with Michelle's disappearance. While the timing of Michelle's vanishing on the very day that her People's Court episode aired seems far too convenient to many to be a coincidence, it's possible that the two are not actually related. It's worth mentioning that since Dale came out on the winning side of the legal battle over the ring, there doesn't seem to be much of a motive for him to have harmed Michelle, at least as it concerns their dispute on the television show. Over the years, at least 2 alternate theories of the case have been floated, one of which, the Carjacking Theory, was originally proposed by Michelle's own family. That theory goes that the perpetrator or perpetrators might have simply seen her driving her Hummer that day and assumed that she had money, and targeted her for the vehicle before abandoning it where it was later found. The second theory is that Michelle may have been the victim of a stalker, perhaps one that knew her from her bartending job. Though it appears that neither Michelle nor anyone close to her was aware of any such person, it's not unreasonable to think that perhaps a customer or fellow employee may have developed a quiet obsession with her. This is especially true given the fact that Michelle was known as one of the most popular bartenders where she worked. At the end of the day, we're left with a frustrating and heartbreaking mystery that in more than one way remains tragically unresolved. At the time of this recording, the 10th anniversary of Michelle Parker's disappearance is only a short time away. Hopefully, someone out there has the information that investigators need to finally solve this case. That brings us to the end of our list. Do you know of any other cases like this that you think we should check out? Tell us about them in the comments section below. As always, if you enjoyed our video, don't forget to like and subscribe to Crime Zone for more true crime content like this, making sure to hit the notification bell to stay up to date with our latest releases. Thank you for watching.